The following is a presentation of the Eagles Sports Network.
All right, Mike Clowney, if you would, open us up with a statement about the regular season finale, the short trip over to Greenville to take on Tusculum.
A regular season, for us, we know that there have been some challenges kind of throughout the season. But overall, just what a great group of guys, coaches and players, to be able to kind of go through this little storm with, guys that you can count on week in and week out, just coming in and still giving you the best effort. Be able to get win last week and now going into the Tusculum game, trying to finish the season on a positive note is something we really look forward to.
You mentioned getting the monkey off your back in the post game after beating Limestone. How nice has it been to work on things with a win? Granted, still some stuff to work on, but you get to do it with the positive vibes of the scoreboard success.
I equate, win to a pat on the back. A lot of times you go and you put in energy, you put in the effort, you want to see it accumulate into something positive, a good pat on the back, and that's what it is, and that's what it's been. It was a good pat on the back for our guys to kind of encourage them going into this last football game.
Final games of 15 guys' careers coming up. You didn't have the senior speeches before senior day. What kind of emotions do you expect out of this group leading into this?
It's going to be an interesting one just because we've got so many guys that have only been here for a short period of time. And hopefully for us that we've had a little bit of time with them, but we've been able to do what Carson-Newman does and make an impact on them that will push them into eternity. And then we've got the guys that's been here forever that literally forever. You add a whole extra year in for a lot of those guys, and hopefully for them they'll be able to come out of this and be able to share their career story and what it took from their day one being here on campus until day whatever this is for Micah Young 7 years later.
You look at the Pioneers, and they've had some high highs, they've had some low lows. Kind of an up and down team, but offensively probably Jerry Odom's highest scoring team since he's been there. What have they done to put the ball in the end zone bunch?
They're really good. They've got a good running back who's done a great job for them. They do a good job of mixing things up, but primarily, they put the ball in the air, find open receivers. They've been able to kind of create some things to get guys a lot of space and essentially wide open. And so we've got to make sure we do a good job of being sound in what we do and making sure that we execute on the back end.
How about Troy Dendy's growth? He's fought for hard yards all season long. How gratifying is it to see him get some recognition from the league and have some of those hard fights for yards get a little bit extra behind them?
Yeah, in today's media world, they find out everything before we do. I'm there, but I'm not super connected, and a lot of that's on purpose. But it come to my phone that he was South Atlantic Conference Player of the Week during our meeting yesterday. So we were able to congratulate him in there in front of everybody. I think he already knew, but it's good. A lot of times, same thing we talked about earlier. Troy's kind of been grinding this thing out. He's had some ups and downs, and you want to see that at some point come to fruition. And he was able to see that this past Saturday. So now the challenge is for him to be able to go out and duplicate that again this weekend.
Kind of astonishing to see the growth of this offensive line and how juggled it has been, and yet not only the 450-plus yards rushing on Saturday, but also back-to-back weeks not allowing a sack. What can you say about the growth of that unit throughout this season to go from struggling to get a push to pretty reliably moving people off the ball here these last few weeks?
It's there are a lot of things that, you don't see when you just watch a football game. We're talking about an offensive line that when we started this summer, I'm just being honest, it was hard to practice. It was legitimately hard to practice, and we didn't have enough of them. So it's hard in two ways. It's hard in the sense that they had to learn what to do, and then it's hard in a sense on the team because we can't even line up a lot of times to do 11 on 11 because we have so few of them that we can't afford to get anyone hurt. And so it created a lot of challenges, for us as a football team. But that's one thing I remember telling our coaches talking about, just watching them day in and day out come and give us their very best effort. It's there's going to be a point to where we're going to be better at the offensive line than we are at some other places if we don't continue to push and grow our guys in other places. When it's challenging, when the guys in front of them aren't where they need to be right now. But to be able to go and watch the last few weeks where those guys were able to get movement up front, protect the quarterback, I think it says a lot, about who they are, about who their coaches are too.
Something we haven't really talked about, especially with the offensive line. You've had some weird stuff happen there over the last 12 months. A guy like Colt Synor, somebody that you probably expect to be fighting on the 2 deep, if not starting, gets diagnosed with stage 4 testicular cancer. Goes through chemotherapy. He's in remission, and he was on the chain gang, helping out on the sidelines on Saturday. Talk about the adversity that you're witnessing there, and how that has helped mold your team a little bit, watching Colt from the sidelines.
That scenario was really, I think something that really come through all of us for curveball. Colt would come in, he worked every single day as a freshman, this guy's going to really be able to help us. And then all of a sudden he comes in, he's like, it wasn't that he didn't feel good. I think it was his back was hurting, and it finally got to the point to where he's just like, Coach, I can't practice. And it's frustrating for us as coaches. Like, man, we got guys' backs hurting, they can't practice. Like, we don't have offensive linemen. Like, and it's just, as coaches, you kind of are task-oriented. So we kind of get into that. But we knew something was going on there because, like, it wasn't that he wasn't trying. And then all of a sudden one night he calls me about 11:30. And we're thinking, okay, like, there's just a nerve or something pinching his back, just forcing his back to hurt. And he calls me at 11:30 at night. He says, Coach, they just diagnosed me with cancer. And I'm like, do what? Like, I mean, he just went to the hospital because his back was hurting. And the next thing you know, he's got cancer. And it kind of, turns everything, for him and his family upside down. But it was just, watching him go through it, the way he handled it, keep Christ first. He continued to encourage his teammates. He continued to encourage other people on this campus. I just remember talking to the team, a couple days in. I was like, I picked up my phone to call Colt to encourage him, and I looked at his Twitter feed and got encouraged for myself. And so, like, that's kind of the impact that he's been able to make. And then just to be able to go through his treatments and battle through that and get back and not be able to play this fall, but still just finds other little ways to help. He helps in the equipment room, like last minute, hey, we need somebody to go pick up the team meal after a game. Like, he goes and picks up the team meal after the game. And so just finding other ways to pitch in and continue to be involved in this football team, knowing that he's been through and he survived cancer and he's still trying to find a way to play a game he loves to play, man. I'm super encouraged by watching Colt.
To piggyback off of that, certainly the wins and losses on the field aren't necessarily where you would like them to be. But you mentioned with the seniors that you brought them along so that they can go and be prepared for eternity. You talk about Colt's story. How would you describe maybe the success that you have had as a coaching staff and as a team to ensure that a lot of these young men have a successful step forward for the rest of their lives?
It's like we all naturally work at this to win football games, and that's what you don't put the time and energy in and not want to succeed at success on the scoreboard. But the coolest thing ever is, like, we got guys that come in, bring their kids back. Guys I played with bring their kids back, and guys I coached that come back in, and just to watch the difference that this program's able to make in the lives of the people. When they come in my office right now, they don't talk about how many games we won. Like, that's cool and it's fun, and like, they won a lot of games. But we talk about their kids, we talk about their families, we talk about what's happening with their wives. Even being able to talk to a ex-player about what's happening with his family, and just try to be able to encourage him. At the end of the day, like, that's who we really are. And we feel like we talked about Trezor earlier in the week, and this blueprint of, like, what allows him to be successful across different platforms. And, like, that's what you hope these guys will be able to receive while they're here at Carson-Newman, a blueprint that's going to provide a template for them on how to live their life in every facet of what they do. Whether they go to work, their family, like raising their kids, like, it's the exact same thing. You love Christ, you give it the best effort you have, you make decisions based on, what's going to help you put God first, and you move on from there.
There are going to be growing pains with the offense, but do you feel like they're starting to find their identity?
I think LaMarcus as a quarterback is starting to grow. We're starting to minimize some of the mistakes there. I think we're starting to comprehend what we're trying to do a little bit better. That's just like me going back and looking at, where we started, and then we hit this little thing in the middle, and then kind of where we're at right now. It's just like, man, God's time, I wish I could dictate the schedule a lot, but, God's time is normally right on time. And I think that's something that's critical for us to, go and look. I'm I would like to have been able to throw all this stuff together in one week and been ready for week one. But it's crazy how it's kind of transitioned for us to be able to start doing a little bit different things and kind of start meshing the things that we started with, did, and finishing, kind of being able to mesh those things together a little bit better here at the end of the season, so that when we do get out of this thing, that we can get a better picture of exactly where we're going and what we want to be as an offense.
Along those lines, every coach wants to be playing their best football at the end of the season. Well, you pick up a win last week, have a chance to potentially get one this week that leads into the offseason. How important is this game to kind of set the tone for what next year can be?
I think because the thing that we talked about yesterday is that continual growth. And so I think if we can grow the way that we have, then we can set ourselves up to do that. But it's going to be our guys going out and execute. We still have to clean up some of the mistakes we made last week. We still can't go give things away and be successful. So, there's a challenge there. And, the big thing we want our guys to do is accept that challenge so that we do put ourselves in position to be able to win this football game.
Anything else?
I'm good.
Thanks, Coach.
No problem, man.